This is my 3D model of the larynx. First, we are going to start with the thyroid cartilage, which is in blue. It is the largest of the laryngeal cartilages, and it articulates with the cricoid below and the hyoid above, which are in green and yellow. It features a left and right lamina, which meet to form the laryngeal prominence, and the most superior point of the angle is the thyroid notch, aka the Adam's apple, and it also aids in protecting the vocal folds. The next is the hyoid bone, which is in yellow. It suspends the laryngeal skeleton, and it forms the union between the tongue and the laryngeal structures. It loosely articulates with the superior portion of the thyroid cartilage and is considered a free-floating bone, since it is not directly connected to any other bones in the body. It is U-shaped, as you can see, and it is open in the back. The body is called the corpus, and it connects to 6 muscles: the hypoglossus, the mylohyoid, the sternohyoid, the omohyoid, the stylohyoid, and the genioglossus muscles. Next is the cricoid cartilage, which is in green, and it is described as being shaped like a signet ring, and it sits inferior to the thyroid cartilage. It provides attachments for the cricothyroid muscle, the posterior cricoarytenoid muscle, and the lateral cricoarytenoid muscles. It is involved in opening and closing the airway and in speech production, and it goes all the way around. It is the green, as you can see. Next are the arytenoid cartilages, which are in red. They're one of the most important aspects of the larynx. They are pyramidal in shape, and the vocal processes mark the posterior attachment of the vocal folds so that they provide the onset and offset of voicing. And the apex articulates with the corniculate cartilages, which are in white. The muscular processes attach to 2 intrinsic laryngeal muscles, the thyroarytenoid and the cricoarytenoids. And the base articulates with the cricoid cartilage, which is in green. Next is the epiglottis, which is this white spoon right here. It is shaped like a leaf and has a stalk, which is also called the petiole. The function is to invert and flex posteriorly as the layer of protection over the larynx as you swallow. There are 2 surfaces, the lingual, which faces the tongue, and the laryngeal, which faces the larynx, the laryngeal vestibule and the larynx. And it is attached to the hyoid bone by the hyoepiglottic ligament, and there are branches of the internal laryngeal nerve of the vagus nerve, which conducts sensory information from the larynx. Next are the corniculate cartilages, which are in white. They are the superior surface of the arytenoid cartilages, and it forms the peak of the pyramid, and they may or may not be fused with the arytenoids. In this case, they are, since I used clay. They play a role in the relaxing, tensing, and approximating of the vocal cords of the larynx, since they are attached to the arytenoids, and they are further attached to the vocal cords. Next are the posterior cricoarytenoid muscles, which are in gray right here. They are the sole adductors of the vocal fold, so vocal fold opening, and they rock the arytenoid cartilages laterally. So they pull the arytenoids towards midline. So the posterior cricoarytenoid are the only muscles, like I said, which abduct the vocal folds and open the rima glottis. And they are small paired muscles that extend from the posterior cricoid cartilage to the arytenoids, and they are innervated by the recurrent laryngeal branch of the vagus nerve. Next are the lateral cricoarytenoid muscles, which are in light blue on either side, right here. The muscles extend from the lateral cricoid cartilage to the arytenoids. By rotating the arytenoids medially, these muscles adduct and may lengthen the vocal cords and close the rima glottis, protecting the airway. And these are also innervated by the recurrent laryngeal branch of the vagus nerve. Next are the interarytenoid muscles, the transverse, which is in orange, and the oblique, which is the purple X. The transverse is a band of fibers that run laterally from arytenoid to arytenoid. This causes the arytenoids to be pulled closer together, which in turn pull the vocal folds closer together in adduction. The obliques function similarly in adduction, and they run obliquely up to the apex of the opposite arytenoids, which results in the X shape. And it also works in conjunction with the epiglottic muscle, in which it aids in pulling the epiglottis to cover the opening of the larynx. Again, these are innervated by the recurrent laryngeal branch of the vagus nerve. Next are the thyroarytenoid muscles, which are in brown, right here. They are a broad, thin muscle that forms the body of the vocal fold and supports the wall of the ventricle and the apex. They are inserted into the anterior surface of the arytenoids, and they help to reduce tension on the vocal folds during speech to decrease pitch. And again, they are innervated by the recurrent laryngeal branch of the vagus nerve. Next are the cricothyroids, which are in lime green. They are innervated by the external branch of the superior laryngeal nerve. They depress the thyroid relative to the cricoid, and they are the only tensor muscle of the larynx, aiding in phonation. So it results in a higher pitch since the folds are elongated. Next is the vocalis muscle, which is inside pink. The lower and deeper fibers of the muscle can be differentiated as a triangular band, which is inserted into the vocal process of the arytenoid cartilages and into the adjacent portion of the anterior surface, and they lie parallel to the vocal ligaments, the vocal folds, and they are innervated by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Last is the trachea, which is in black. They are the cartilaginous tube that connects the pharynx and the larynx to the lungs, allowing the passage of air. The top of the trachea is the cricoid cartilages, which is attached to the larynx. This is the only complete tracheal ring, and the others are incomplete, as you can see in the back. The trachea is surrounded by rings of hyaline cartilage. The cricoid cartilages is the first tracheal ring at the top of the trachea, and it acts as the bottom of the larynx. And there are 15 to 20 rings in total, and these reinforce the front and sides of the trachea to protect and maintain the airway.